Most people don't fail because they lack strength. They fail because they were never programmed to succeed from the start. From birth, society installs a default mental operating system designed to make you compliant, manageable, and predictable. You're told kindness always triumphs. Patience is a virtue and being liked matters more than being respected. And you accept it because everyone around you accepts it too. They all operate on the same flawed program. However, Machiavelli created a completely different system, not for peace, but for power. If you want to transform your life into something formidable, respected, feared, and quietly admired, you must first do the unimaginable, uninstall the mind you were given, and rewrite it with one built to conquer. This requires embracing 7 Machiavellian principles. First, realize that emotions are data, not directives. Most people are disguised emotional slaves. They justify outbursts as honesty and tears as authenticity. But to Machiavelli, emotions are merely inputs, not commands. Your fear signals where your power ends. Your anger indicates someone has crossed a boundary. Your jealousy guides you toward what you desire, but pretend you don't. The crucial part, you never allow these feelings to steer your decisions. The dangerous mind treats emotions like weather forecasts. You observe them, take note, and plan accordingly. You don't cancel a mission because of rain, nor do you enter a storm without armor. Machiavellians are emotional tacticians. They may feel deeply, but turn emotions into weapons rather than idols. Second, understand that power lies in perception. For a Machiavellian, truth is flexible. Perception is everything, but understanding is everything. If people think you're powerful, they treat you that way. If they see you as weak, even if you're not, they'll trample you without hesitation. This is the ruthless logic of appearances. A quiet man is perceived as wise. A composed reaction is taken for self-control. A cold gaze makes others reconsider disrespect. You don't need to intimidate. You need to appear as someone who knows something others don't. Power is 80% illusion and 20% action. Most people get stuck trying to prove themselves. The Machiavellian never plays that game. He doesn't prove, he suggests. He lets mystery speak for him. Third, recognize that controlling the frame means controlling the game. Every interaction, conflict, on relationship follows an invisible script, a frame. Whoever sets the frame dictates the rules. Whoever accepts it becomes a player in someone else's game. The average mind enters a room wondering how to fit in. The Machiavellian enters and rewrites the atmosphere entirely. For example, if insulted, don't defend yourself. Ask why they're so fixated on you. If doubted, respond with a smirk, not an explanation. If someone tries to dominate the conversation, pause and speak second, always second. Because speaking second holds power. A mind trained in this philosophy doesn't merely respond to the world. It continually reframes it, knowing that the instant you allow someone else to define the meaning of something, you've already lost control. Fourth, view connection as a tool, not a crutch. Weak minds seek connection out of fear of loneliness. They enter friendships and relationships like beggars craving attention, affection, or purpose. But Machiavelli didn't pursue connection blindly. He engineered it with intention and strategy. To him, human relationships aren't sacred havens. They're alliances, some temporary, some lifelong, all serving a function. The dangerous mind doesn't foster emotional dependence, but builds emotional leverage. It gives just enough to spark curiosity, listens more than it speaks to gather resources, and offers loyalty only to those who earn it through strength, not proximity. When a bond starts to weaken rather than sharpen him, he severs it without hesitation. Fifth, understand that solitude isn't weakness, but a source of strength. Modern culture treats being alone like a disease. If you're not constantly busy social or posting, you're considered behind. But the Machiavellian knows true power is honed in isolation. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's preparation. It's where mental software is upgraded, free from distractions. While others fall into dopamine traps, scrolling, comparing, reacting, the dangerous mind does something else entirely, sharpening focus, increasing tolerance for boredom, and calculating the next move undistracted. Most people fear their own thoughts and fill silence with noise or chaos. The Machiavellian seeks silence because it sharpens strategy. Sixth, embrace that morality is flexible. This is where many hesitate. They want power but without compromise. They want results with clean hands. They want to do what feels morally right, even when it leads nowhere. But Machiavelli was blunt: if your morals always outweigh your ambition, you'll never rise above mediocrity. This doesn't mean being evil. It means being adaptable and fluid. Morality should fit the situation. Use deception when it safeguards your mission. Employ manipulation if it prevents harm. Remove kindness when it becomes a liability, like cutting away rot. To be truly dangerous, you must hold two truths simultaneously. You will be just when possible and ruthless when necessary. Because only a flexible morality survives hardship and still claims the throne. Seventh and final belief that distinguishes the pretenders from the genuinely dangerous is that peace is a temporary tactic, not a lasting objective. Most chase peace as if it's life's ultimate prize. The Machiavellian knows peace is merely a pause, a quiet moment to rebuild, reposition, and strike anew. He recognizes the game never ends. Influence is never permanent, and power must be guarded, defended, and recalibrated daily. So he doesn't rest too long, doesn't celebrate too loudly, and never lets comfort become his prison. Because the instant you feel secure is exactly when someone begins plotting to take everything away. Now that you understand these beliefs, the real question is, can you actually integrate them? Because once you do, you don't just become less manipulable, you become impossible to control. Violence isn't necessary to be dangerous. In fact, the most threatening minds are the quietest. They don't announce their change or shout rebellion. Instead, they transform silently and precisely until they're unrecognizable from their weaker past selves. With the 7 core beliefs firmly planted, it's time to witness what happens when you truly live by them. This is when the people around you start to change. Some will distance themselves, others will feel intimidated, but most importantly, you'll begin to notice things you previously overlooked. For example, they'll try to shame your power once you stop reacting like a people pleaser. When you move with internal authority, they'll take notice but won't congratulate you. Instead, they'll label your mindset with phrases like, "You've changed," or "You've become cold," or "Why are you so distant?" Know this, these are not simple observations, they're defense mechanisms. You've broken their control pattern. You're no longer predictable, no longer handing over easy access to your emotions, no longer offering explanations they can manipulate. And the Machiavellian understands that sometimes power must wear the mask of indifference, not to punish, but to protect the frame. Let them talk. Let them speculate. The confusion you see in their eyes is the cost of rewiring your mind. That's the sign you're on the right path. Every reaction you give now carries weight. Before reactions flowed freely, insults sparked arguments. Silence led to chasing boundaries were forgiven without a word. But a Machiavellian acts not on impulse, but on return on investment. You don't react unless it serves a purpose. You don't engage unless it increases your leverage. You don't clarify unless it advances your strategy. This approach quickly drives others mad. They can't read you or provoke you. They can't discern if you care, are angry, or plotting. And that's the point. When your reactions become costly, your presence gains value, and the moment you become difficult to access, you become dangerous to underestimate. You start viewing relationships as power dynamics. Before this shift, you were taught that relationships, whether romantic, professional, or platonic, were sacred, unconditional, safe spaces. But as your mind upgrades, you see the truth. Every relationship is a power exchange. Every compliment, silence, or favor isn't random. They're moves in a psychological negotiation. The dangerous mind doesn't become paranoid or assume everyone's deceitful. Instead, it watches the game unfold in real time. It discerns who speaks to impress and who speaks to manipulate, who flatters to support and who flatters to control, who gives out of loyalty and who gives with strings attached. This transformation alone eliminates 90% of the people in your life who only appeared supportive, because now you understand their true intentions. Once you see this, you stop being unknowingly used. You begin to wield silence as a psychological weapon. The untrained mind fears silence and rushes to fill it. They talk to relieve tension, seek approval, or avoid discomfort. But the Machiavellian knows silence applies pressure. It makes others fidget, over-explain, and reveal too much. Once you adopt this mindset, you realize that speaking less doesn't mean being passive. It makes you dangerously unpredictable. Picture this in a negotiation. You let them speak first, causing them to expose their terms prematurely. In a confrontation, you pause and let the silence thicken, causing them to second-guess themselves. In a group setting, you observe while others vie for attention. And when you finally speak, your words hit with the force of thunder. Most people crave being heard. Machiavellians crave being remembered. Silence, when used precisely, creates an aura that cannot be faked. It signals you don't need this conversation to validate yourself. That alone shifts the entire power dynamic. You stop wasting energy arguing with those unworthy of your time. A key sign your mindset is transformed is this: you no longer explain yourself to those who don't deserve it. After internalizing the belief that perception is power and truth isn't always crucial, you recognize most arguments are traps. They're not about clarity, they're about control. You see this in the coworker who pretends to question the friend who hides insults and jokes, or the partner who stirs conflict to unsettle you. Previously, you would defend your integrity. Now you smile, nod, and walk away knowing that silence, mystery, and a strategic exit leave a deeper impact than any rebuttal ever could. Your detachment begins to unsettle people. By treating connection as a tool rather than a crutch, you emotionally detach from others' chaos. You're no longer the one who lingers on calls out of obligation. You're no longer the friend who endlessly advises people who never change. You're no longer the partner who sacrifices your vision for the sake of peace. And when that detachment activates, when you move like someone who doesn't need anyone, people panic. They sense your self-worth isn't negotiable, that you're not clinging, chasing, or performing, and that terrifies them because suddenly they're no longer the focus of your attention. You become the enemy's reason to stop direct attacks. The final proof your Machiavellian mindset is taking hold is this: your enemies cease confronting you openly. What? Because they no longer know how you'll respond. You've become unreadable, unshakable, and unpredictable. You don't react as expected. You don't play fair. You don't argue in public. You don't disclose your plans. And worst of all, you've mastered playing the long game. So instead of overt assaults, they resort to whispers, passive-aggressive tactics, reputation damage, and subtle sabotage. But by that point, it's already too late for them because you're 10 steps ahead, observing, waiting, calculating. You don't flinch because you're not here to seek approval. You're here to build silent power and let them choke on their own assumptions. This is what happens when beliefs evolve from mere words into deeply ingrained code. You no longer have to force dominance, you emit it effortlessly. You stop chasing status, you embody it. Your mind becomes your kingdom, and you're no longer a subject, but the ruler. There comes a stage in every transformation when the change becomes irreversible. You no longer strive to be strategic, it happens naturally. You no longer fake calmness. You simply are calm. You don't just play the game, you command the entire board. By now, the Machiavellian operating system no longer requires conscious thought. It runs silently in the background with precise efficiency. Now comes the next level, because the beliefs were only the beginning. To become truly formidable, you must blend them with behavioral recalibration. You must live the code, not just understand it. This means learning to direct your emotions rather than suppress them. Early on in mental rewiring, people try to control emotions by bottling them up. But Machiavelli didn't suppress his feelings. He channeled them. Master manipulators don't extinguish their rage or fear. They transform them into weapons, molding and disguising them. Anger fuels precision. Fear drives preparation. Sadness offers clarity, a reflective mirror revealing what must change. You don't bury these feelings. You hold them like fire, close enough to light your way, far enough to avoid being burned. This is emotional mastery, not numbness, but disciplined control. You weather the full storm and still walk a straight path. You move from reacting to calculating. Most people live impulsively. They're slaves to the moment. An offensive comment triggers an immediate reaction. Betrayal prompts an emotional outburst. Being ignored sparks desperate attempts at validation. But with the Machiavellian system fully engaged, your first impulse is no longer reaction, it's calculation. Instead of asking how you feel, you ask, what are they trying to make me feel? What do they want me to say? How can I break the cycle without revealing my plan? This mind doesn't strike back. It analyzes. When you calculate rather than react, you stop being a puppet in someone else's show. You become the invisible playwright they follow. You refuse to be judged by standards you never agreed to. Before rewiring, your worth was measured by society's norms, how many followers you had, how busy you seemed, or how many liked you. But the dangerous mind rejects those criteria. It builds its own scoreboard asking, did I hold my ground today when others tried to unsettle me? Did I speak less but say more? Did I gain advantage without being obvious? You begin to understand that true value is internal. Reputation is optional, invisibility is a choice. Machiavellians don't chase numbers, they create significance. The moment someone tries to judge you by their criteria, you flip the narrative. And when you stop relying on external approval to feel powerful, you become unshakable. You no longer fear being misunderstood. Weak minds obsess over being understood. They justify themselves to critics, defend against doubters, and strive to make everyone see who they truly are. But the Machiavellian mind doesn't plead for clarity. It thrives in ambiguity. Because it grasps a harsh truth, the more mysterious you remain, the more people talk about you. The more silent you are, the more they project their assumptions onto you. The more misunderstood you seem, the more powerful you appear. Clarity is overrated. Confusion sparks curiosity, and curiosity fuels obsession. So you let them talk. You let them guess. And you never hurry to correct their image of you because their confusion is your disguise. You wield praise like a weapon dipped in honey. The average person praises out of sincerity, saying kind things when they truly mean them. While that might seem virtuous, it's predictable, gentle, and easy to manipulate. But a Machiavellian uses praise strategically. You compliment others not to gain favor, but to build trust before the cut. You praise your adversary in public to lull them into complacency. You flatter egos not because it's true, but to lower their defenses. Praise when wielded tactically becomes addictive. People crave your approval, and once hooked, they become compliant, even loyal. Praise when rare and deliberate creates power far stronger than any criticism. And the best part, they won't even realize you're controlling them through kindness. You understand that visibility equals vulnerability. One of the most lethal lessons from Machiavelli's philosophy is this: the more visible you are, the more vulnerable you become. That's why true power often remains hidden. The most dangerous individuals in the room are seldom the loudest. They don't flaunt their dominance like jewelry. They don't seek applause. They don't overshare their plans. Instead, they move like shadows. You now recognize that mystery as a weapon being underestimated is leverage. Loudness makes you predictable, and predictability makes you easy to defeat. So you move quietly, influence subtly, and when you strike, it hits like lightning from a clear sky. You realize your mind is no longer just your own. When you fully internalize the Machiavellian operating system, something strange happens. You realize your mind has become dangerous not only to others, but also to yourself. Because now you justify your coldness, rationalize your detachment, and excuse your manipulation. This is where many stumble. They let strategy devolve into cruelty, detachment, into emotional decay, forgetting the true purpose of their power. But a true Machiavellian remembers that power is a tool, not an addiction. Control is a technique, not a meaning. And ruthlessness without purpose is merely self-destruction in disguise. So he erects a final firewall within his mind, a boundary he refuses to cross. Because he understands that if you lose your humanity in the quest for dominance, you've already been defeated by yourself. This is the paradox of the dangerous mind. It is cold, but not cruel. Silent but not passive, strategic but never empty. Once you reach this stage, there's no turning back. You replace obedience with observation, impulsivity with refinement, desperation with deliberate design. You no longer move with the masses. You move like a mind forged to rule from the shadows. You don't become dangerous by chance. You become dangerous when every thought, every silence, every action is carefully calculated, not to impress, but to position. By this point, the Machiavellian operating system is fully active within you. It doesn't seek permission or plead to be understood. It simply operates constantly scanning the environment, anticipating hidden threats, and protecting what matters without revealing itself. But here's the final stage. The part rarely spoken about. True Machiavellian strength isn't just about defeating others, it's about mastering yourself with ruthless precision. In its ultimate form, this looks like manipulating time itself. Most people are trapped in reactive time, moving according to the urgencies imposed by others. Messages demand replies. Trends require participation. Deadlines spark panic. But the Machiavellian lives by psychological time. He pauses when others rush, waits while others chase. He postpones gratification not because he lacks desire, but because he refuses to be controlled by it. By controlling your pace, you create the illusion of power. Others assume you must be busy, important, unshakable. But in reality, you've simply chosen not to dance to their rhythm. Whoever controls the tempo controls the outcome. You foresee betrayal without allowing it to poison you. A mind this sharp knows betrayal isn't a possibility, it's inevitable. No loyalty lasts forever. No alliance is immune. People betray out of fear, greed, attention-seeking, or simply for no reason. The key is you don't grow bitter, you become ready. You build multiple escape routes. You maintain emotional distance where necessary. You let others think they have more access to you than they really do. You anticipate the betrayal not as paranoia but as foresight. You notice the cracks in the handshake, the change in tone, the delay in responses. You sense it in your spine before the blade is even drawn, and when it arrives you don't flinch. You've already rehearsed this moment in silence. You learn to disappear strategically. Power often requires retreat not out of fear, but out of necessity. There are times when remaining visible dulls your edge when speaking, more reveals too much when reacting exposes your mindset. So the Machiavellian vanishes not permanently, just long enough to be missed, feared, and wondered about. You leave the group chat. You go silent after a public victory. You pull back while others gossip, then resurface once they've forgotten how to strike. The point isn't absence. The point is impact through unpredictability. When people can't find you, they can't aim at you. When they can't decipher you, they can't exploit you. When they can't predict you, they begin to respect you. You quietly reward loyalty and silently punish betrayal. The ultimate mark of a dangerous mind is restraint, not only in offense, but also in response. You no longer perform loyalty as a show. You no longer broadcast your punishments. You simply act with finality. When someone proves worthy, you elevate them. No fanfare, no celebration, just increased access. When someone betrays you, you don't yell, "Fight," or threaten. You simply cut off their lifeline. You withdraw your energy, time, and trust without a word, and they sense it immediately. You've taught them the most powerful rule in your world. Disloyalty isn't corrected, it's erased. And the silence that follows your absence speaks louder than any revenge ever could.